is only one of an infinite number. At the root of existence, mind and matter. What mysteries lie beyond the reach of your senses? Worlds without end. Some benevolent and life-giving. Dark places where powers older than time lie and waiting.
Hey guys, welcome to Psychology Spirituality. Hope you're all well. Saeed here. Today I want to speak a little bit about personality research, specifically the 5-factor model, and how that integrates or converges with religiosity and spirituality. So for the topic of my dissertation, for those of you who may not know, I covered my candidacy, which is like the preliminary step to my dissertation, in my Ramadan video, which I'm linking right here. I'm also going to make a follow-up video because I didn't speak about the results yet. But for my dissertation, I've been really going into personality research because it's a very psychometrically valid, culturally generalizable, probably the most valid psychometric, which just means it's been used, validated numerous times across populations, across time. What I'm going to do for my dissertation is we have a mindfulness program, right? And we've been doing it for about 3 years now. And, you know, the student response is pretty good, but I want to look specifically at whether students who are higher in certain personality dimensions and spirituality dimensions and mystical experience dimensions. So I've been getting more into mysticism, right, which is correlated with spirituality, but it's more of like this timeless, ethereal, abstract, you can't even put into words, experiences that people have, right? And lots of psychedelic research uses mysticism. One of the questions is, have you ever had an experience that was timeless and wordless?
It makes you behave like the village drunkard in some early Irish novel. Total loss of all basic motor skills. Blurred vision, no balance, numb tongue. The mind recoils in horror, unable to communicate with the spinal column. Which is interesting because you can actually watch yourself behaving in this terrible way, but you can't control it.
It's your mama.
Ignore this terrible drug. Yeah. Pretend it's not happening. Higher! Well?
Your suite isn't ready yet, but someone was looking for you.
No, we haven't done anything yet. Move!
I can't handle this. This man suffers from a bad heart. But I have plenty of medicine. My name is Dr. Gonzo. Prepare a suite at once. We'll be in the bar.
Many people who do psychedelics would say yes. Not only psychedelics, right? And many people who religious and spiritual have mystical experiences, right? Sufis when they do the whirling dervishes, Shias when they mourn during Muharram. Many Hindus who practice more esoteric forms of yoga, you know, they report heightened mystical experiences. So I wanted to look at certain personality and religious spiritual dimensions of a student's profile and whether engaging in a mindfulness intervention, right? Because lots of what mindfulness is trying to do, even though they don't like using those terms, right? They like to pose it as a purely scientific, cognitive, emotional tool. Actually, what they're really trying to do is draw into a person's spirituality. Focus on your thoughts, detach from your thoughts, focus on compassion, interconnectedness, right? I mean, all of these are moral, spiritual terms, right? And I'm making a video, or I did make a video, where I spoke about the problem with modern mindfulness. And I think the big thing is that it doesn't readily, transparently integrate these mystical, spiritual components. For my dissertation, I'm going to look at a pre-post 4 or 5 month mindfulness program and whether certain students respond better to this intervention that we've created. So personality research encompasses 5 different factors. And I want to speak about those 5 factors generally, then also specifically, because I've taken personality inventories myself. First, we have neuroticism, which is the tendency to experience and express negative emotionality, which you might be thinking to yourself, okay, who wants to be high on neuroticism? Neuroticism has the highest link with mental health illness, right? People who are neurotic, and you can think to yourself, like Woody Allen, I always think of, right? This guy's always anxious all the time, always seeing threats where other people just see neutral stimulus.
Well, that's essentially how I feel about life. Full of loneliness and misery and suffering and unhappiness, and it's all over much too quickly. The other important joke for me is one that's usually attributed to Groucho Marx, but I think it appears originally in Freud's Wit and its Relation to the Unconscious. And it goes like this, I'm paraphrasing. I would never want to belong to any club that would have someone like me for a member.
But, they also tend to be more realists, right? So sometimes you need a little bit of neuroticism to keep you a healthy dosage of reality. Right, then we have extraversion, which is the second personality dimension, and that captures one's sociability, excitability, and tendency to be outgoing, right? So we have extroversion on one end, and we have introversion on the other end, so that's on a spectrum.
I used to be really quiet too.
Oh, that's what it is, he's a thinker? Yeah. I don't understand.
No, yeah. Are you bored, Kayla?
Huh?
You look bored.
I'm not bored.
Try to stop.
What? No, I'm not judging her. It's fine. We're bored of her. She's a different generation than us.
She's
right
not
to
a
be
different
bored.
generation.
Yes, she is.
She's 4 years younger than us.
When did you get Snapchat? What grade?
5th grade.
5th grade? She's like wired differently.
She's not wired different.
I'm not saying it's like a bad thing. I'm just making a
stop. Let's stop this. Let's stop this now.
Jesus Christ, fine. I'm just making a fun point.
Okay, fun point made. Let's go. Okay.
Don't bring me into this shit.
I actually like the filters on Snapchat and stuff. Those are cool. Yeah, me too.
Third, we have openness, which reflects an individual's imagination, curiosity, and production and acceptance of novel ideas. So that really loads on well to spirituality, as you can see, right? People who are not afraid to put themselves with new ideas, that's really important, right? They're more inclined to research different theologies, not be afraid of other worldviews, and maybe even integrate them into their own.
So you believe that God gave you this gift because he wants to keep you in misery?
I never thought about it that way. Maybe God made me a painter for people who aren't born yet.
Possibly.
It is said life is for sowing. The harvest is not here. I paint with my qualities and faults.
Then we have agreeableness, right? Which is the tendency to be friendly, compassionate, and warm to others. But again, agreeableness isn't always favorable, right? There's a great book that I read called David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell, where he talks about the fact that many geniuses, so-called geniuses, or people in high levels of power, actually have a degree of disagreeableness, right? Because if you're the type of person who's always warm and compassionate, you're more inclined to be a pushover sometimes, right? Whereas people who are disagreeable, look at like Copernicus, right? If he was an agreeable person, then I think the earth revolves around the sun, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I just want to be nice to people. You need a certain degree of disagreeableness to go against the status quo, right? And here's a great quote by Rollo May. And finally, the last one is conscientiousness, which reflects orderliness, responsibility, diligence, and achievement striving.
This whole place was built by the Apple II. You were built by the Apple II.
As a matter of fact, I was destroyed by the Apple II and its open system so that hackers and hobbyists could build ham radios or something. And then it nearly destroyed Apple when you spent all your money on it and developed a grand total of no new product.
You know, when people used to ask me what the difference was between me and Steve Jobs, I would say, Steve was the big picture guy, and I liked a solid workbench. When people ask me what the difference is now, I say, Steve's an asshole. Your products are better than you are, brother.
That's the idea, brother. And knowing that, That's the difference.
It's not binary. You can be decent and gifted at the same time.